Hi, this is Beersborn. Welcome back to Game Design. In today's video, we're going to create the health system for our main character. Now, we've already done something similar for our enemy. We're going to do it a little bit different this time. And the reason why is because when we made the health system for the enemy, we used what's called an instance variable. And what an instance variable does is if you have more than one of the same object on the screen, like say I maybe put 3 enemy ones in here, the instance variable keeps track of how much life each instance of that object has. But for something like our main character, we're only going to have one of the main character on the screen, and we might want to keep track of how much life they have across different stages and different levels. And it makes more sense to use what's called a global variable. So I'm going to go over to my event sheet. And to create a global variable, I'm going to right-click anywhere in the white space at the bottom of my event sheet. And you'll see an option right here next to the earth that says Add Global Variable. We're going to call this, I'm going to call it health. You can call it life, HP, whatever you want to call it. The type's going to be a number, and let's set the initial value to something kind of small for now, like 3. This is going to be how much life your character starts with. You can always make it more later, but if you have it really high right now, like if you set it to like 100, testing out if it works is going to be very grueling. So let's just do 3 for now. And that pops up right at the top. So a global variable keeps track of how much health our character has across the entire game. It's not necessarily attached just to our character. It's a global number that we can always check and always adjust. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create an event that says when our character gets hit, we'll subtract 1 from the health variable. So let's add a new event. The condition is going to be when our character gets hit by the enemy, right? So I can do, okay, when the character is overlapping with the enemy, that's when they get hit, right? But we might also want to do stuff like, if you notice in your attack animation, like if I go over to my enemy and I take a look at the attack animation, for mine, like it winds up the attack, it's like doing those frames of anticipation before it actually attacks. It doesn't actually attack until frame 5, right? So I might have the attack only happen when it gets to frame 5. That way my player has an opportunity to maybe get out of the way before they take damage. So I'd recommend taking a look at the attack animation of your enemy, see which frame you want the damage to be done on. So I'm going to add another condition over here. Double click on the left, go to the enemy. I'm going to say not only do they have to be overlapping, but it has to be on frame 5. Or your frame is probably different than 5. You might be on frame 2 or whatever. Good. So when they're overlapping on frame 5, we're going to add an action. We're going to subtract 1 from the health variable. Now, because we used a global variable, that's not connected to our character. It's actually under the system. If you double click on system, there's a section for global variables. And we have an option to subtract from our health global variable a value of 1. So when they're overlapping, when the enemy gets to frame 5, it subtracts 1 from health. Now we're going to add another event that says when the health global variable becomes 0 or less, let's destroy the main character. So I'm going to add an event. I'm going to say under system, under the global variables, compare the variable. And when the health is less or equal, just in case we get less than 0 life, then we can add an action, take our character, and destroy them. Let's try it out. Now notice I only got hit once, but I was still destroyed, right? I still lost. Even though I have 3 life, it only took 1 hit. And the reason why is because computers run so fast that it's subtracting 1 health for the entire time that it's on animation frame 5, which might be enough to do like 10 damage to me. So I have to add one more thing over here on the left. I'm going to say not only does it have to be on frame 5, but I also want it to only trigger once while it's true. So I'm going to double click on the left tab, go to system, find trigger once while true. Double click on that. So now when it's overlapping, when it's on frame 5, 1 time, it'll subtract 1 from health. So I get hit once, twice, 3 times, and then I disappear. Now that's pretty good. What we have to add to this though is some kind of communication. We want to tell the player that they've been hit. With the enemy, what we did is just added a flash behavior. So every time we hit the enemy, they flash, and that works pretty good. But let's try something different. For the character, let's make them change colors briefly. There are things called effects in Construct that allow you to change color or like warp or manipulate your object. And and they can be found down here under the effects. So I have my character clicked on. I'm going to go down to effects. I'm going to try adding a new effect. Now these blend ones aren't going to come in handy for us yet. The color ones are good. There's a bunch of options where you can make it blur, or you can make it turn black and white, or you can have it like look like an oil painting. There's all kinds of weird stuff. I like to let's try using adjust HSL. What that means is adjust the hue, the saturation, and the luminosity, which is all kind of technical kind of art speak for color and how intense the color is and how bright it is. If you change this hue number to any number between 0 and 100, it'll change the color. So you can just try it out. I can hit like 50 and now my ghost is red. Or I can do 85 and now it's green. If your character is like more black and white, you might not notice much of a difference, but you can do that. And we're gonna do 50. So my character is gonna turn red. Now I don't want him to be red in the beginning though. So this enabled checkbox, if I uncheck that, it won't be red in the beginning. I can just make it turn on and turn off whenever I want. So it's gonna be not enabled to start with. Now let's go over to our event sheet. I'm going to add some more events here. I'm going to say when it gets hit, I'm going to add an action, go to my character, and if I scroll down to the appearance section, there's an option for set effect enabled. These are effects and I can enable it. So if I go to set effect enabled, I'm going to take the mode, turn it to enabled, and the effect I want to do this to is the adjust HSL. Delete one quotation mark and all your effects pop up. We just have the one, so there it is. So when I get hit, I turn red. But I don't want to stay red forever, right? I'm just going to wait maybe half a second or even less perhaps, and then disable the effect. Whenever you want to wait, whenever you want to have a slight pause between actions, you can add an action, go to the system, go down to the bottom, and click on wait. It's going to ask you how long do you want to wait for. Let's wait just like, I don't know, 0.2 seconds, just a brief amount of time. And then let's add an action, go to our character, go to set effect enabled, and this time we're going to disable the effect. So it'll only stay turned on for 0.2 seconds. Cool. Even that feels a little long to me. I might go 0.1 seconds. Let's make it real brief. Yeah, that seems good. And that way it really communicates like, okay, I've been hit, my character flashes red for a second. Now, the other thing we can add is we can have the animation of our character being defeated pop up when the health becomes 0 or less. Just like we did with the enemy though, we don't want to make this an animation connected to our character. And the reason why is because if the defeat animation is playing, but then our player's still like attacking or moving around, it might cancel out the animation and then our player won't be defeated. So what I'd recommend doing is adding a new object. It's going to be a sprite. And it's going to be my character's defeat. It's going to be the thing that pops up when my character is defeated. Click insert, click anywhere, find the animation you created for your character's defeat. I think this is mine. It's a little weird, but we'll try it out. And there it is. I might have to adjust the size on mine a little bit. I think that'll work though. And let's move this outside the area. I'm just going to stick it out in the gray area because we don't want to see it at the beginning of the game. Now what I can do is I can say that when the health becomes 0 or less, let's add an action. Let's make our character spawn our character defeat. So the character spawns another object, character defeat. That way it'll pop up right before they're destroyed. Spawns the object and then destroys. Let's try it out. Good. That's a pretty wild animation. I'm going to turn the speed up on that a little bit. Where is it? Here it is. I'm going to make that play a little faster. Let's see how it looks. Now, once that happens, though, the game is just kind of stuck, right? My character's been destroyed. My enemy's just freaking out in the corner. I can't really do anything. What we need to do is we need to add a way for our player to restart the game. So I'm going to go to the event sheet. I'm going to add a new event. I'm going to say the condition is going to be on the keyboard. on key pressed, and then let's decide which key they have to press to restart the game once they've lost. I'm going to do R, but you can choose a different key if you want. I'm just going to do R for restart, and then click done. So when they press the R button, we'll add an action, and under system, there's an option for restart the layout. A layout's like a level, so we can restart the level whenever they press R. Let's try it out. So I die, animation plays, I press R, and it restarts, but I start dying again right away. And the reason why is because we've restarted the level, but my health is still at 0. Global variables keep track of how much life you have across the entire game. So when we restart the level, we have to reset how much life we have back to our original starting life. So I'm going to add one more action here. I'm going to say not only am I restarting the layout, but I'm also going to go to the system. I'm going to set the value of my global variable back to however much life you want to start with. In this case, 3. So 2 life, 1 life, 0 life. I press R, I'm back to 3 life. Cool. Now, one last thing we can add here, let's make a message pop up that says like press R to restart, or maybe like, you lost or something like that. We can add a text object. We haven't done that before, so let's go and throw it in now. I'm going to right click anywhere in the white space. I'm going to insert a new object. It's going to be a text. So scroll down to the general section. You'll see a big capital T and a dotted line. Let's call this, I'm going to call mine defeat text. You can call it whatever you want. And then click anywhere. And instead of the animations editor popping up, we now have a little text box. Over here on the left side under properties, we have all these different options to change what the text says and how the text looks. The first option where it says text, you can type in what you want it to say. I'm going to make mine say press R to restart, so my player knows how to restart the level. The font is the style of letters, so you can change that to whatever you want. There's generic font families up here at the top. I recommend choosing one of these. Even if you have other options, these are probably the safest bet. If you use some kind of crazy font, sometimes it doesn't work. But you do have those options there if you want them. I'm going to do fantasy. A big, bold text I think is good. You can change the size here. Now, if you start getting your text too big for the text box, it starts to disappear, but you can always click and drag to make the box bigger to make it pop back up. You can change the color. I'm going to make mine red. Seems appropriate. And you can also change the, down here at the bottom where it says origin, we probably want this text to pop up right in the center of the screen. So rather than being on the top left, I would change the origin to be center. That'll help it pop up right in the middle of the screen. Good. I'm going to go bigger on mine. I'm going to go 50, I think. Big and bold. That looks good. Now, we don't want this to be in the game right at the beginning, so let's drag it off into the gray space, stick it up there. Now let's go to our event sheet, and we're going to say when the life becomes 0, not only do we destroy the character and play the animation, let's also go to the system, create object, we'll make the text pop up. Now for the X and Y, we want it to pop up right in the middle of the screen, right? So you could kind of figure out what the X and the Y of the center of the screen is, but there's a better way to do it. If you type in the word scroll X for the X value and scroll Y for the Y value, what that means is wherever the screen has scrolled to, wherever it's moved to, the scroll X and scroll Y is right in the center location. So scroll X, scroll Y. So now when the health is less than 0, spawn the character defeat, destroy the character, create the object defeat text. Cool. Now if you want to, you can add a little bit of a weight there too. Like I could add another action, go to system, add a weight of maybe like a second and drag that up. So it takes a second after you've been destroyed before the text pops up. That might look kind of nice. A little bit of a delay and then the text pops up. Excellent. Now notice how there are little pixels of my last frame of animation here. If you want to get rid of the last frame of your animation, you can add another event that says when the character defeat on finished animation 1, add action, character defeat, and then just destroy it. So when the animation's finished, it destroys itself. Now, the last thing we should add here is that it's kind of weird that if I press R, I can restart the game at any point. And that's not maybe a good idea, right? We just want to restart the game when you press R if you're dead. So we're going to add one last thing here. And this is going to be another global variable, actually. We're going to add a global variable, but this time it's going to keep track of whether or not you're dead. And if you press R when you're not dead, nothing happens. But if you press R when you are dead, then it'll restart. So let's right click and we're going to add another global variable. And I'm just going to call it dead. But this time, instead of a number, I'm going to use what's called a Boolean. And what a Boolean is, it's a true-false statement. It's either you are dead or you're not dead. The initial value is whether you want this to be true to start or not true to start. And we don't want to be dead to start off, right? When we start the game, we're not dead. So we're going to keep the initial value unchecked. Click OK. So it says dead, false. We want the dead to be true here. When your life becomes 0 or less, we're going to add an action. We're going to go to the system. We're going to go to the global variables section, and there's an option for set Boolean. We're going to set the Boolean for dead to be true. Now, when you restart the game, we don't want to be dead anymore. So we're going to add an action when you press R to restart. Not only does it restart the game, but it also sets the Boolean for dead to false. The last thing we want to do is we want to say that when you press R, this will only restart if you are dead, if dead is true. So I'm going to double click over here on the left tab. Add another condition. It's going to be under the system. We can check to see if a Boolean is set, if it's set to true or not. So double click on is Boolean set, variable dead, that's good. If your character is dead, when you press R, then all this stuff happens. If you press R and your character is not dead, then nothing happens. Try it out. Press R, I'm pressing R right now, nothing's happening. If I wait, let my character die, and then I can press R to restart. Excellent. That looks great. Let's save it, and we'll stop there for today, and I'll see you guys next time.